I'm Aria Schwartz alongside Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr show where it's all about the W. Full agency, free agency is in full swing. The news is coming out. We got tons to discuss. I'm tripping over my words because it's so exciting what's going down in the W today. Let's dive in. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. That's patreon.com/Winsidr. We are revamping it for the 2025 season. There's going to be tons of amazing weekly content over there, so make sure to check it out. Right now it's free, but come season it won't be. And for less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to check out our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. Welcome back to the Winsidr show. Very happy to be here. Very happy to discuss WNBA free agency. And if I'm being honest, Rachel, very happy that we are not involved in breaking any of it, because those were some of the most exhausting free agencies, seasons, months of my life. I had fears of taking showers or sleeping because you would miss something, you would miss a text. My wife hated it. I know everybody around us hated it when we'd be out, at events, bars, dinners, family happenings, and we're just glued to our phone, paying attention, trying to continue to foster the relationships. And that's something that I think people don't understand. So much love to ESPN after No Shade losing to us for like 5 years in a row. And now finally getting that opportunity to bring that attention to the league. I think it's great. I'm happy to see ESPN and other major outlets actually paying attention to the W. But yeah, I'll say it for you, Rachel, because I know you're too modest. It's so nice not to be doing it because it was exhausting. It was cool, but it's nice to relax a little bit.
I feel like I can always let loose here on our show because this is where I'm most comfortable, right? I think it'll always be bittersweet for me. Like there's going to be a part of me that's like it's like pushing a button that I, want to go explore and want to go be a part of. And it's so exciting. And you want to, I think there's just a natural human element of that I think I will always gravitate to and miss. But yeah, when you break it down like that, I'm going to go to Costco after this and go just eat samples and look at leggings. And I wouldn't be able to do that before. I literally wouldn't. The amount of times I was driving down in a snowstorm, pulling over on the side of the road. How about the nights we were trying to sleep on something? We had something, but we had to wait till the morning. And I would wake up every hour and make sure everything was still okay. It's, and for what? And for what? I mean, I guess at this point, people listen to us. That's probably the best part about it, I guess.
Well, and that part, that's something people don't understand. And I think that's an element that so often gets talked about, and people throw in mudslinging, whatever you want to call it, on social media, where it's like, you didn't credit me. So often in these, yes, there's people that are literally just copy pasting. There's accounts and people who just copy paste and present it as if it's their own work. Then there's also people who work their butts off, make the connections, retain those connections and those relationships over the years, because that's truly what it is having relationships, especially if you don't have the big name backing of an ESPN or The Athletic. And so often, we wouldn't have this information. Heck, we might even know somebody else has the information. And it's purely a situation of waiting till we got the approval from our sources to go live with it. And it can be so anxiety ridden, so much. It's a lot.
I think I'll always have a love-hate dynamic with the whole thing. But I'm enjoying the fact that I can just go eat samples after this. That'll be nice.
Look, I've said it for years. We pulled the Houston Comets, Rachel, right? Back to back to back to back. And then a year later, we're like, all right, peace out. Mic drop. Okay, let's talk about it. Some big news coming out of the W. Not going to talk about Brittany Griner and her wife unfollowing on social media the Phoenix Mercury and possibly signaling the end of her time in Phoenix. We are, on the other hand, going to talk about Alyssa Thomas, who has spent her whole career in Connecticut. Word is out from ESPN that she'll be traded to Phoenix. And in that regard, it's all about what is the return, what is the asset. I know, hey, by the time we go live on this, we might be done. But hey, that's what we're doing. So let's see if we got anything more on this. I'm just checking this real quick. Yep, not seeing anything at all in terms of any more information in the return for that. So I'm just happy about that. I'm sure by the time this podcast comes out, that information will be out. We're coming right off of our WNBA Weekly show on the Bleacher Report app. Make sure you check it out. The first ever live on camera major syndication WNBA Weekly show. It's ridiculous. Haven't wrapped my head around it, but we're here today. Let's talk Connecticut, Phoenix, trade possibilities. For me to be blunt, like I've been throwing shade at what Seattle got in return for the Jewel Lloyd Kelsey Plum trade. I've said they haven't got enough. So now we look at this. I say whatever you want. I know a lot of people think
it's funny because there's so many people that like feel completely polar opposite than you. But keep going.
Oh, basically everyone. I'm on this ship alone. It is okay. It's fine. Whatever. I'm used to it. Look, for me, and this is why I feel this. And I didn't say this on the live show, and I know I've talked to you about this. Sorry, I'm just going to do my rant real quick. Recent big name players who have demanded trades. Kalia Copper got, in return, Chicago got 3 players, the 3rd pick in the draft, and another first-round pick. For Elena Deladon, Chicago got Kalia Copper, Steph Dolson, and a first-round pick. For Liz Cambage, Dallas got Mo Jeff, Izzy Harrison, and a first-round pick. For Skylar Diggins-Smith, Dallas got 3 first-round picks. For Jewel Lloyd, Seattle gave up Jewel Lloyd and a first-round pick, and they got the number 2 pick. So they moved up 6 spots, 8 spots, whatever, 6 spots, 7 spots. Lee Yuru, and then they also got a first-round pick that's going to be around that number 9 spot later on for 2026. And then Kelsey Plum, what did Vegas get? They got Lloyd and basically the last pick in the first round. So when I look at it, I'm just saying, when I list that, Rachel, Jewel Lloyd is up there with Kalia Copper, with Liz, like with those players, and the return is so minuscule. I'm sorry, that's my feelings. If Olivia Miles turns out to be the next Kelsey Plum or the next Kalia Copper or the Jackie Young, fair. I'm wrong.
Well,
right? Because
let's see, if assuming she even comes out, and that's who they're even targeting, could be someone completely different.
If they're going for Kiki, Rachel, you are much wiser when it comes to college basketball. I'm much smarter. No, I'm joking. You're much wiser when it comes to basketball. Is Kiki on that same level of a superstar? Because in my mind, I don't think she is. And in my mind, when I look at this draft, in terms of cornerstone superstars who are going to be on the level of a Jewel Lloyd or a Kelsey Plum within the first 5 years of their career, or heck, at any point in their career, I think of Olivia Miles
and Paige Beckers.
Yes. And so I don't like, those are the two. And if it's not those two, and those are still ifs, right? Both of them have injury history. Both of them could extend longer in college. So there's a lot of ifs there. And that's why I have shade. So when I look at this Alyssa Thomas trade, and we've discussed this very briefly because it literally broke right before we went live, but
great timing, by the way.
They need to get a return. And when you look at Phoenix's roster, they don't have much in terms of, they don't have draft assets, which historically, as I just listed, have been a common thing used in these types of trades when a star player demands a trade. But what they do have is some good talent that maybe they'd be okay moving on from. A Rebecca Allen, a Sophie Cunningham, heck, even a WNBA champion, Natasha Cloud. And then they have the 12th pick in this draft and no first rounder next year. So what do you think in terms of value for somebody like the tripped up queen, Alyssa Thomas?
If it's just a one-on-one trade, just a really clean back and forth, I don't see how it's for anything other than Natasha Cloud. And unless like you're packaging Sophie, Rebecca Allen, and number 12, maybe in 2026 something, like I don't know. We've spent the last hour brainstorming around this on both of these shows, and I don't know. My gut is leaning towards a Natasha Cloud, which sounds crazy to think because I feel like she'd be miserable in Connecticut. But
And also, like, also she's been like the biggest advocate for
yeah, well,
people joining.
she's done so much recruiting to Phoenix, right? And she seems so bought into kind of what's going on there. So it sounds even crazy. I feel crazy for even saying that. But when you just look at what's on the table, unless Connecticut was just in such a difficult situation and it was very obvious that Alyssa Thomas has a specific place she's trying to go to, and Connecticut had very little control or cards in this fight whatsoever. Like, because that's a possibility too. Like, I don't know. I don't know how this whole thing went down. Like, she's refusing to entertain anything else, demanding to be at a very specific place. Then, if you're Connecticut at that point, like maybe it does end up being a Rebecca Allen and Sophie and a 12 or something.
But Rachel,
two of those. I don't know.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm sorry if Connecticut's just getting Rebecca Allen, Sophie, and the 12. I know people think this draft is deep. That is
It's not enough for an MVP caliber. I mean, she's been top 3 in the conversation for MVP for like the last 3 years.
And arguably top 5 for the last 5 to 7 years, right? Like, she has been there consistently. That would not be enough return for me, just flat out. And look, we can be blunt about this. If I'm GM, and I know, like, here's the thing. If I'm the GM, I would be hated. I'm not letting you walk for not a good return. I'm pulling the Mike T with Elena Deladon. I'm pulling every card and stop.
Especially right now, if you're Connecticut and your roster is looking like the Sahara Desert right now. I mean, you've got Marina Mabry and Ty Harris. That's what you have. And you got a brand new coach who's never been in the WNBA. You've got a front office that's shifted around some pieces. Like, I don't know what this is going to look like, y'all. We knew it was an end of an era, but now to actually watch it and witness it, and I still don't anticipate. I mean, we're all assuming Dwana Bonner's going back to Phoenix. This is this big homecoming, finish out her career there. It's where it started. It's very poetic. I love it. But I don't anticipate Bree Jones going back there either. So I don't know. Like, if you're Connecticut, they have to draw a hard line here and get something that they feel good and valuable about. There's no feel good, thank you for your services. We're going to just send you on your way for,
and then we're going to be in the lottery for the next 5 years.
I mean, Rosati's not doing that. You're not having Tuck doing that. Like, so it's going to be really interesting to see what is this return. Yeah, I don't know. And we've speculated about it. I want to make it very clear. When I talk about Natasha Cloud, when we talk about 12 and packaging it with other things, we don't know. There could be a third team involved as well. So we're literally recording this like 30 minutes after the breaking news came of AT even going to Phoenix. So
and I'll add to it in part of the Marina move, they gave up their pick in this draft, their first round pick in this draft. So you're talking about they have the 25th pick in this draft.
Yeah,
you're not getting somebody who can change the course of this team. And in 2026, they have one pick in each round. So it's rough. And Rachel, at the time of the trade, I was the only one standing on the mountaintop saying, guys, this is so short-sighted. You're not retaining Bronner. You're not retaining Alyssa Thomas. Bree Jones is probably out. Maybe they can convince Bree Jones now that she's out. I don't know, but I doubt it.
That's what you get for putting all your chips on the table for something that you were still the third best in that equation last year.
Yes. That is what we have been saying.
There's going to be some hard times coming in Connecticut. Sorry.
Yeah, it's rough. And arguably hard times coming in Seattle, who has essentially said, okay, we don't need, because in the grand scheme, and I like to think as if I'm a GM, hate on me for that, call me, a witch or whatever you want to say. That's how I'm viewing it. Is like,
I like it.
As a GM, the reason that you want to get a haul, as they all say, you want to get a handful of picks, even if it's not a top 4 pick, you want to get some players, because when you get that much, you at least can hope that one of those things hits. What Seattle has essentially done, and I know people are going to say in 2026, they have 3 first-round picks. Great, that's awesome. There's also an expansion draft coming. There's also going to be 2 expansion teams entered into that draft. So it's going to impact where they place in that draft. Also, that was not part of the trade. You got 2 first-round picks in that trade, and you gave up 1 first-round pick. So I'm not giving Seattle did not get enough that if they don't hit on what they got, it's okay. And that's where I look. When you look at these teams who got returns for big name players, for Dallas, you got 3. Now, did they hit on all 3? No. Did they hit on what you could argue they didn't hit on any of them?
I was
Fine.
gonna say, man.
It's Dallas. I mean, they traded one for a Stu right away, which is like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But like all these, the reason when you are giving up a superstar player, you want to get multiple things back so that you can at least get some positive gain from it. Because if all you're getting is a number 2 pick and Olivia Miles, Paige Beckers don't go into this draft. And realistically, like, even if Paige is in this draft, unless she refuses to go to Dallas, Seattle ain't getting her. And she would then have to pick Seattle. So, like, at the end of the day, I think they have to hit on number 2. And that's really, really what it comes down to.
Which is exactly why the LA Sparks went away from it, because they went for certainty, because they knew that their ownership, their front office, whatever, just fired a guy for embracing a rebuild. They went for certainty in Kelsey Plum instead of flipping a coin of who's going to be available there in April at number 2. You can't fault him for that. I think they made it very clear. Kurt Miller was let go because they need to be in the playoffs. They wanted contention, which really disregards my opinion about the fact that they needed to embrace the rebuild, and that's what he was brought there to do, and he was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. But whatever. Hey, we all think we should win championships every single year. It's professional sports. However, yeah, like I think that the message was sent at that point. And so LA went for certainty. Seattle's going to sit here and yeah, they're collecting assets. That's great. But a team that's collecting assets like this is like, okay, you've already lost Brianna Stewart. You've already lost Jewel Lloyd. Sue Bird retired however many years ago. Like, we went out and got Skylar Diggins-Smith and NECA, and tried to throw some stuff together last year and hope that it was a super team. It wasn't. It didn't work. There was drama. There was a lot of issues. Now, obviously, Jewel Lloyd leaving, that hopefully makes this a better dynamic with everybody involved, including Jewel Lloyd and in her next stop with Las Vegas. But it feels like, to me, Seattle's just grasping at straws, trying to grab whatever they can, attract whoever they can, and hope that it works. And now, okay, yeah, you have assets in 2026. That's great. But if that's the case, get ready to embrace a rebuild.
Totally.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong to think that?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, and honestly, hearing you talk about it, it just made me think of what we've seen from these two teams, these two franchises, LA and Seattle, over the past handful of years, right? 2 years ago. And Rachel, I got hot takes. I speak my opinion, but I will admit when I feel like I was wrong. And now, up until this point, for the past 2.5 years, I've been sitting here saying, I like what Seattle did. Don't core Jewel, or don't core Stewie, core Jewel. Stewie's leaving anyways. And if you core Stewie, Jewel's gone and Stewie's gone. So you lose 2 players and you're only getting return for 1. That's been my stance and I've stood by it. But now, as we're sitting here, 2 years removed, you just lost. Obviously, we're not going to say Sue. Sue retired. But you lost Alicia Clark.
That era is done.
You lost Jewel Lloyd. And you lost Brianna Stewart, and you got back essentially just the number 2 pick in the draft. Yes, you got one. So like, you got 2 first-round picks for those 2 players. That's essentially what you got, and you swapped one. And then you look at LA on the other hand, Rachel, real quick. They had Candace Parker, Chelsea Gray, and Nneka Ogwumike. All 3 of them are gone now, and they have completely into this crazy new rebuild. Obviously, there's a stark difference in terms of resources, in terms of, relying on your location to make players want to go to you, looking at LA and not Seattle. Obviously, Seattle has put their money where their mouth is. But just, I know you wanted to say something, but also if you could tie it into like these 2 franchises, complete end of an era, losing like 6 superstars, 7 superstars over a couple years, and now we're just in completely different situations.
Well, it has been the case with LA. Seattle, it's like there was like this like little inkling of, still having Jewel Lloyd in the equation. Now it's like, and here's the thing, I sympathize with all of these teams, but I sympathize with Seattle in particular. Maybe not in particular, because it's like you're thrown into this situation. There was a vision for this team and putting these stars around Jewel Lloyd, who they've cored. That's been their franchise player. It just didn't work out. And so I've said before, I said it on our show on Sunday night, I said it earlier on Bleacher Report, they've done the best they could with the hands that they were dealt. Like, Like, this was not the vision for, this franchise a year ago when they were putting this team together. However, I mean, what I think personally, and I'll just be completely honest, like, what I struggle with is I can't look at this free agency and look at the trajectory of a team the way we are used to doing it every single year, because of the CBA, because everybody's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year, because of the 2 expansion teams. So it's almost like my brain just like short circuits when I try to think about where are we going to be a year from now? What is this going to look like? Now, the good news is for Seattle, yeah, they're going to have a ton of first round assets that they could parlay into a trade. I think Seattle will always be able to attract top free agent talent because of the market, because of the facilities, because of the fan base. Like, I think that Seattle is in the upper echelon of some of these franchises in terms of, because they're all going to be free agents. Who's going to go to Seattle? They can be in the conversation, but then in terms of trade deals, yeah, they've got assets for it. So it's just, I think for me, and this is not me analyzing anything, this is just me telling you guys personally, it is really hard to look ahead. It's hard to look ahead, especially a year from now. It's hard to look ahead even what this means 3 weeks from now and what this looks like. But then even then, once we get these rosters established for this year, the whole thing gets blown up again next year. So it's like, it's really hard to guess where any of these teams are going to be. I mean, in 2026, especially. I just had to get it off my chest.
No, I agree with you. I think, look, and again, I'll always fight both sides of it. I have my opinion, but I'll fight both sides of it. Like, as you were saying, for Seattle, when you kind of take a step back and you look at it, I kind of view this as last year was their Liz Cambage, Kennedy Carter year, right? They threw in a sense,
like with like no crazy. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, there was some crazy. It just wasn't as
that was
as
a Hail Mary. What Derek Fisher did was a Hail Mary. I think what Talisa did last year was a lot more calculated and made more sense. It just, by the grace of whatever, it just didn't work.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I just mean it in the sense of it was the end of the era, trying to keep that era, not necessarily that era, but bridge it directly into a new era of greatness.
Putting greatness around already existing greatness.
Yes. In an attempt to extend the legacy.
Could you make the same argument with Vegas?
Yes. I think that's what Vegas is doing. The question is, will it work?
This is the first chipping away at that of, okay, what our championship formula has fallen apart. We got to keep trying to put greatness around Asia Wilson.
Can it be enough? And so that's why I look at it and I go, okay, Seattle, in that sense, okay, I don't hate the moves you did last year. I now question the Stewie aspect. Fine, that's way in the past. But now it's okay if this year is bad. And that's the part that I think is getting missed about this. I might think this wasn't the best trade for Seattle, and Seattle lost the trade in some, if you want to say that, right? I did it. Fine. I don't care. They didn't get a superstar. They got the hopes of a possible superstar. So to me, that's the worst element of the trade. That said, if you look at it in a year from now, right, where basically everyone's a free agent, you have an arena that's essentially just for you. You have a practice facility that's elite. You have player-led ownership with Sue Bird part of the Seattle Storm ownership now. And so you're in a situation with a new CBA with tons of draft picks. This year might suck, and it might be good for them to suck this year. So those draft picks are worth more. But when the new CBA comes to be, that's when they can really strike. So they are in a good position to be bad this year. It's okay to take this gamble. That's why this gamble is okay, to justify it. That doesn't mean it's going to change my opinion of who won or lost the trade, but it can justify their long-term planning and their long-term goals. But obviously, I think you need to retain at least, one cornerstone superstar throughout this. Maybe that's Ezzy, maybe that's somebody else. Well, I don't know.
Let's see what happens with NECA in this too, because we haven't heard any reporting about that yet.
Everyone's kind of want to stay there.
Everyone's kind of assuming, but
does NECA want to stay there? We know she's tight with Quinn. We know she likes the player ownership, the female ownership. Does she maybe want to make a run to a Vegas to make a run with an Asia Wilson, pair them together. There's a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities and options for things to happen. Does she maybe go to a Phoenix? There's a lot of craziness that could happen, no doubt. I think we are just in the beginning. And now that the first two dominoes have fallen, I think we're slowly going to see more and more action. There's going to be teams like, Minnesota is a team, always got to bring up the hometown. Minnesota is a team that doesn't necessarily need to make big moves, doesn't need to make waves, needs to add on pieces to this starting five, needs to add shooters, need to add depth, things like that. So they're waiting for dominoes to fall. There's other teams like that. New York also. I'm trying to think. Maybe in Atlanta also. They're waiting for dominoes to fall. Atlanta obviously different than those two teams, but just so that they can finally make their move. It takes a little bit for the teams that are a little bit lower on the rung, just in terms of needs and free agency to get active. Those are my final free agency thoughts as of today. Rachel, I feel like we've been talking about free agency for, I don't even know now. But again, we can sleep at night and we can shower and we can, go to Costco and enjoy our downtime and then get on the pod and break down these moves.
And you guys share with us your thoughts, like let us know what you're thinking about some of the stuff we've talked about. I'll be honest. I mean, I felt really good about my knowledge of this league. I felt really good about everything we've studied in free agency and how this works. But as I mentioned before, the circumstances right now with the CBA, with expansion, with everybody being it throws such a wrench in all of this that we are analyzing this, and I personally am growing through this as we go through it. It's just really interesting. Like some of these moves are going to feel so short-sighted because they will be short-sighted,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to win a championship. So we have to keep that in mind. I don't know if you could potentially sit here and think about long-term build-outs, because your whole roster could implode a year from now. So it's really interesting. It's really fun to analyze. Please share with us your thoughts. Please join us on our Bleacher Report show, AP Top 25 on Monday. That's at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then every Tuesday, WNBA Weekly, 3 p.m. Eastern time. What else am I missing? We're going to record this basically after our WNBA Weekly show. So look forward to us kind of releasing these, especially as we get deeper into free agency.
Yeah. And like we've said many times, I think the reason we both enjoy this is we're much more comfortable in this setting, but also we can be ourselves a little bit more, have a little bit more hot takes, feel less worried that everybody's going to see it and then roast us. But hey, shoot us an email. Shoot us emails if you have any thoughts on anything we've said, rea@winsidr.com. Sometimes can be a little bit slow to emails, but please, love to hear insight from the listeners. And remind me, if you sent me an email, I'll try and find it before, because we'll send out some merch around season time, because we've got some random stuff over the years, and cool. You guys deserve it. So have a good one. Peace. We'll be back next week.